The first sentence on the page is mine. I know it before Elaine finishes sliding the stack across the table because I spent 23 minutes deciding whether "the press breathed" sounded lyrical or ridiculous. I can still see the sentence glowing on my laptop at 2:17 Saturday morning, surrounded by cold coffee rings and Silas Reed's transcribed interviews. "Claire saved it," Elaine says. Claire's hand lands on the pages, my rewrite, her credit. Around the table, people begin praising the new opening, the reordered photographs, the clean transition into the Baltimore print shop story. I sit with my palms under the table while Claire explains why she moved Silas's central anecdote forward. Then the conference room door opens. Silas enters carrying his battered red accordion folder. "I thought this was tomorrow," Elaine says. It was. He pulls out the original proof pages, unties their red cotton tape, and spreads them across the table. My blue wax pencil marks cover every sheet. He looks from the pages to Claire's clean copy. Who marked every correction? Elaine's smile holds. There were several hands on the chapter. Silas points at me. "That hand," he says, "Nora Bell's. She spent 6 hours fixing it with me. The room goes so still I can hear the old radiator clicking behind the display cabinet." Claire withdraws her hand from the rewrite. Silas flips to page 287, where I'd drawn my small hooked carry mark beside a paragraph that needed to move. The same paragraph begins Claire's version. "This hook means carry forward," he says. "Nora explained it because I kept calling it a shepherd's crook. Here it is again. Same paragraph, same place." He looks at Claire. "Did you speak to me Saturday?" Claire's color climbs from her throat. "Elaine gave me the file. That is the unanswered part, the part that lodges under my ribs even after Silas has said my name in front of everyone. Claire doesn't lie. Elaine does it for her." "What Claire means is that I consolidated the team's work into a fresh document," Elaine says. She has a voice designed for rooms like this, low, warm, faintly amused by the possibility of disorder. The chapter was in serious trouble. Nora did a strong correction pass. Claire helped us see the larger shape, and now Silas has something he can stand behind. "I saw the larger shape on Saturday," Silas says. "It was on Nora's screen." Kay Hensley, the printer's representative, lowers her glasses and studies page 287. Kay has driven in from Lancaster wearing snow boots despite clear weather, which tells me she expected an argument over the press schedule. Her yellow legal pad is already filled halfway down. Luis Ortega sits beside her with both hands folded over his stomach. He handles composition for Mercer House, and his eyebrows are performing an entire silent vaudeville act. Claire clears her throat. "I did work on the presentation." "You made the deck," I say. Everyone looks at me. It is the first thing I've said. Claire's mouth opens, then closes. Yes, it was a good deck. Luis makes a small choking sound and turns it into a cough. Elaine touches the edge of Claire's copy, squaring it with the table. "There we are, different strengths, which is why we function as a team." Silas reaches across and takes the copy away from her. "I'd like Nora's name on the developmental credit." "We can discuss the acknowledgement language after production," Elaine says. "I'm discussing it now." Kay's pen begins moving again. The meeting continues because meetings continue even after someone has opened the floorboards and shown you the wiring underneath. Elaine pivots to the print schedule. Claire advances her slides. Luis reports that the photo captions are 6 lines over. I answer 3 questions about the index and refuse to answer a 4th because I would need to see the latest diagram key. Nobody mentions the clean stack again. It sits in front of Silas until he returns it to the red folder with my marked proofs. He reties the cotton tape in a square knot. I notice because I always use a bow. His knot looks permanent. When we reach the discussion of page count, Kay says, "If final files arrive Wednesday morning, I can probably hold the slot." "Probably?" Elaine asks. "You were due last Friday." "We had an editorial intervention. You had 3. Kay says it mildly. She has printed Mercer House books for 11 years and fears Elaine about as much as she fears a paper cut. Silas taps the folder. One of them worked. Elaine's smile doesn't change, but her thumb presses hard enough into her pen to turn the nail white. The book is called The Last Working Press, though Silas dislikes the title. He says it makes the letterpress sound like a dying animal. His own title, Men Who Know the Pressure, tested badly with the sales team because everyone thought it was about hypertension. For 4 years, Silas traveled through machine shops, church basements, private collections, and half-heated industrial buildings to interview people who could still rebuild platen presses by ear. He can identify a worn bearing from across a room. He cannot organize a chapter to save his life. His drafts arrive dense with beautiful details and no doors between them. I like making doors. That was how I got into production editing in the first place. Not through literature or a childhood dream about books. I worked at a medical supply catalog after college, correcting product descriptions for compression sleeves and stainless steel carts. I discovered I had a talent for finding the exact place where information stopped moving. A missing measurement, an undefined term, a paragraph built in the wrong order, each one was a locked door. I liked finding the hinge. Elaine hired me 12 years ago, 2 years before I married her son. "Your instincts are better than your resume," she told me during the interview. At the time, I thought it was a compliment. When the meeting ends, chairs scrape back too quickly. Claire closes her laptop and catches the cord under one heel. Louise bends to free it before she can yank the computer to the floor. "Thanks," she mutters. "Presentation was good," he says. She looks at him suspicious. He means it. That makes it worse. Silas waits while Kay gathers her legal pad. He is 72, narrow as a ruler, with nicotine-yellow eyebrows despite having quit smoking 20 years ago. He wears a tweed jacket with a tear at one elbow and keeps reading glasses in 3 different pockets because he can never remember which pair works. He holds out the red folder to me. "You keep these. They're yours. They're evidence now." Elaine is standing 6 feet away. I take the folder. They're proofs. Same thing in better shoes. Kay laughs once, closes her briefcase, and says she'll call at 4 about the press slot. Silas asks if I'll still be on that call. "Of course," Elaine says before I can answer. Silas looks at me, not her. "I'll confirm," I tell him. He nods. That is as close as Silas comes to trusting a promise. Claire has left the room, but her mug remains beside the projector. White ceramic, lipstick on the rim. Favorite niece printed in green across the side. Elaine gave it to her at the holiday lunch in front of the entire staff. Claire had rolled her eyes and said, "Subtle, Aunt Elaine," and everyone laughed because admitting a thing out loud is one way families make it untouchable. I pick up the mug and carry it toward the kitchen. "Nora," Elaine says. The others keep walking. Daniel is waiting in the hall with a courier envelope under one arm. He looks from his mother to me and decides immediately that the envelope has become fascinating. "My office," Elaine says. I have captions due to Luis. They can wait 10 minutes. Luis, halfway to the stairs, lifts one finger without turning around. 10 minutes, it says. After that, he will come looking. Daniel moves aside to let us pass. He still wears the navy sweaters I used to buy him, though this one is new enough that someone else probably chose it. Our divorce became final 14 months ago. We can discuss freight invoices, storage costs, and damaged cartons with perfect ease. Put us within 5 feet of his mother, and we revert to the worst versions of ourselves. Elaine's office overlooks the brick wall of the building next door. She claims the bad view helps her concentrate. On her shelves, Mercer House books are arranged by spine color instead of publication date, which drives everyone in production insane. She closes the door and leaves me standing. "That was unfortunate," she says. I set Claire's mug on the corner of her desk. For who? For the book. The book is better. This isn't a game, Nora. I know, games have rules. She sits. I remain standing because the chair across from her is piled with advance copies. Elaine removes her glasses and folds them carefully. She is 63 and handsome in a way that makes softness seem like an error other people commit. Silver hair cut at her jaw, black shirts, one piece of jewelry at a time. Today it is the gold watch Daniel and I gave her for her 60th birthday. Claire should have been clearer about the division of work, she says. You gave her my file. I gave an acquisitions editor access to an editorial document. You told everyone she saved the chapter. She helped save the project. With a slide deck. A strong sales presentation is not decorative. That museum order depends on buyers understanding what they're looking at. I said the deck was good. Yes, in a tone that made the compliment an insult. I can try a warmer tone when the credit is corrected. Her face shifts then. Only slightly. Elaine rarely shows anger as anger. She shows it as disappointment in the quality of the conversation. You have been doing work outside your defined role, she says. That creates confusion. Silas called because Claire wasn't answering his queries. Claire was preparing for today. On Friday? She has responsibilities beyond one manuscript. So do I. And yet you chose to spend your weekend rewriting his chapter without authorization. The blue pencil in my cardigan pocket presses against my ribs when I breathe. I'd put it there before the meeting without thinking, the same way some people pocket their keys. Silas sent 21 unanswered queries, I say. The printer needed locked pages. Kay said we were about to lose the slot. You could have called me. I did. She glances toward her phone. Friday at 4:12, then 4:38. I emailed at 5:03. I was at dinner with the museum buyers. I know, Claire posted a picture. A tiny mistake. My mistake. Elaine's eyes sharpen. This is exactly the problem, she says. You think your history with this family gives you permission to speak differently than any other employee. My history with this family is why everyone expects me to absorb this quietly. That is an interpretation. It's a very experienced one. For a moment, neither of us moves. On the wall behind her hangs a photograph from the company's 40th anniversary. Elaine in the center, Daniel beside her, me at the far end holding a tray of champagne glasses because the caterer had vanished. Claire is laughing at something outside the frame. We look like people at the beginning of an evening before anyone has said the thing that will be remembered. Elaine puts her glasses back on. I will review the credit language after we have final files. I want the morning meeting corrected in writing. To whom? Everyone who was there. You want me to circulate an account of an awkward internal misunderstanding to our printer and author. I want you to circulate an accurate record. You already had your public vindication. The phrase makes me stare at her. Vindication. As if Silas had given me a prize instead of returning something taken from me. Elaine opens her laptop. Send your remaining notes through Claire. She will handle author communication from this point forward. You just told Silas I'd be on the 4 o'clock call. I said, of course, because contradicting you in that moment would have made an uncomfortable scene worse. You had already contradicted me. You just used Claire's name to do it. Her fingers stop over the keys. Nora, go finish the captions. I lift the red folder from where I tucked it beneath my arm. After you confirm who marked the corrections, I will not let you turn one bruised feeling into a crisis for this company. She looks at the folder and I see the instant she understands why Silas gave it to me. Not sentiment, custody. When I return to my desk, my access to Silas's author folder is gone. The directory still appears on the server, but when I click it, a gray box tells me I don't have permission. I try the production archive. Same box. The photo log opens, then closes. Across the room, Claire is staring at her monitor with both hands pressed flat beside the keyboard. Luis rolls his chair over and parks beside me. That was quick, he says. I click the folder again. The gray box returns. From the hallway, Elaine calls Claire's name. Claire stands, smoothing her skirt. As she passes my desk, she stops just long enough to whisper, I didn't know she was going to say, I saved it. I look up at her. That's not the same as not knowing it was mine. Her lips part. Elaine calls again. Claire walks away. Luis watches her go, then reaches into the pocket of his green work shirt and sets a small brass pencil sharpener beside my keyboard. He uses it for the black composition pencils he carries tucked over one ear. "You're chewing the blue one," he says. I take the pencil from my mouth. The lacquer bears fresh tooth marks. At 4 o'clock, the conference line rings at an empty desk. Mine. I hear it from the copy room, 3 short rings before voicemail takes it. Claire has asked me to rescan a caption sheet because her handwritten changes were too light for the production copier. When I return, the red message lamp is blinking. There is no voicemail. At 4:12, Kay sends an email to Elaine, Claire, Daniel, Luis, Silas, and me. Need author approval on revised diagram sequence by noon tomorrow. Also need a final editorial sign-off. Holding Thursday press time pending both. Elaine replies before I finish reading. Claire will coordinate approvals. Nora will provide production sign-off. I type, I no longer have access to the author folder. I wait a full minute, then add everyone on Kay's message and send it. My access returns at 4:19. Nothing in the folder explains why Silas left the call believing I had approved a diagram sequence I hadn't seen. Luis leans over the partition between our desks. You get the feeling we're building the airplane in the air? We would have a diagram for that. Wrong diagram, probably. He drops back into his chair. I take the brass sharpener he gave me and turn it between my fingers. It has 2 holes, one for a standard pencil and one for the fat composition pencils Luis orders by the case. Tiny curls of blue lacquer still cling to the blade. At 4:26, Elaine appears beside my desk. You didn't need to copy Silas on an access issue. He was copied on the approval request. You made it sound as if someone had deliberately prevented you from doing your work. I look at her. She lowers her voice. Technical permissions change all the time. Not by themselves. Claire was cleaning up the directory. Claire can't change permissions. Across the room, Daniel stops opening a courier box. Elaine hears the silence, too. I asked Daniel to restrict editing while Claire consolidated the files. Daniel closes his box cutter. You asked me to make the author folder read-only, he says. I didn't remove Nora. Elaine's gaze moves to him. It lasts less than a second, but it is long enough to put him back in our marriage, standing between 2 women and hoping the floor will decide for him. I may have clicked the wrong setting, he says. There it is. Elaine nods once. As I said, technical permissions. She walks away. Daniel carries the courier box into the supply room. A few minutes later, a message appears on my screen. Can we talk downstairs? I leave it unanswered. The manuscript in the author folder is labeled Final _ Claire _2. It contains my rewrite with the track changes accepted, Silas's queries deleted, and all previous editors removed from the document properties. Claire has added 4 comments. 3 are good. One asks if a linotype machine is the same as a letterpress. I export a PDF of the version history and slide it into Silas's red folder. At 5:30, most of the office leaves. Mercer House occupies 3 floors of a converted ribbon factory, and the building makes different sounds as it empties. Radiator hiss, pipes knocking. The freight elevator lowering itself with no one inside. I am checking captions against the photo log when Daniel sets a paper cup of tea beside my keyboard. You still hate the coffee from downstairs, he says. I hate all coffee after 3. Right. He stands there holding his own cup. Daniel is good at operations because he remembers what everyone else needs, and bad at conflict because he remembers what everyone else fears. I didn't take your access, he says. You said you might have. I was trying to stop a fight in the middle of the office. You stopped the wrong fight. He glances at the red folder. Mom says Silas embarrassed Claire. Silas asked a question. He did more than ask a question. So did the pages. Daniel rubs the seam of his cup with his thumb. You could accept shared credit. I could accept accurate shared credit. That's what I mean. No, you mean I should let Elaine decide what happened after she's already decided what people heard. He sits on the edge of Luis's desk, careful not to disturb the line gauge and ruler laid beside the monitor. The museum group is considering 1,800 copies, he says. If we miss their purchasing window, we sit on inventory through the winter. Payroll is already tight. Then we should stop rushing inaccurate files toward a printer. I'm not asking you to approve something inaccurate. What are you asking? His face changes. Not much. Once I knew every stage of Daniel's retreat. First came reasonableness, then a careful summary of the practical stakes, then the moment he made my resistance sound like the only remaining obstacle. I'm asking you not to turn Monday into a referendum on everything that happened between you and my family. I put down the caption sheet. Your mother took my work, handed it to Claire, and announced that Claire saved the book. I know. Do you? I was there. You were in the hall. I heard enough. You always hear enough to know I'm upset, never enough to know why. The freight elevator shudders in its shaft. He looks into his tea. That's fair. It is the last thing I expect him to say. Before I can answer, he stands. I'll make sure you keep access, he says, whatever Mom tells me. He takes his tea downstairs. Mine cools beside the keyboard. Too sweet because he still remembers how I drank it 6 years ago. The next morning, my request for corrected meeting minutes receives a reply from Elaine at 8:07. Thank you for your thoughts. Monday's discussion reflected the collaborative effort required to bring a complex manuscript to completion. We are pleased that Silas recognized the team's contributions and look forward to celebrating the finished book together. Claire arrives 10 minutes later, carrying a cardboard tray of coffees and a white pastry box. She distributes both with the briskness of someone trying to buy normal. You didn't get anything, she says when she reaches me. I'm fine. I didn't know what you liked. We worked together for 5 years. Yes, but you change your mind. About pastries? About people. She sets a plain croissant on my desk anyway. Her favorite niece mug is gone from the kitchen. In its place, she has a black travel cup with no words on it. At 9, she presents revised jacket copy to the sales team. Through the glass wall, I watch her transform. The flush disappears. Her shoulders loosen. When a sales rep worries that the book looks too technical, Claire does not promise to simplify it. She tells him technical authority is the selling point, then gives him 3 cleaner ways to describe it. She is good. That has always been the complication. At 9:40, she brings me a printout of the revised diagram list. Can you check this? Send it by email. I'm standing here. Email gives us a record of which version I checked. Her jaw tightens. I'm not trying to trick you. I didn't say you were. You don't have to. You've developed a whole vocabulary of pauses. She returns to her desk. A minute later, the file arrives. The list refers to 6 figures as press trays. I mark each one and return the document with a link to Silas's terminology sheet. Claire appears again. Can't readers understand tray better than composing stick? It's a different object. You know what I mean. Then write what you mean in the sales copy. Don't relabel the object in the book. She exhales through her nose. This is what Elaine means. About what? You make every correction sound like a character test. You're asking me to call a hammer a table because table feels friendlier. That is not even close. It's as close as a tray is to a composing stick. Luis turns his chair toward the wall. His shoulders are shaking. Claire points at him. You're not helping. I am composing myself. She laughs before she can stop it. For a few seconds, the 3 of us are only co-workers arguing over an absurd noun. Then Claire sees the red folder under my monitor, and the laugh leaves her face. I didn't ask Elaine to give me your rewrite, she says. You still took it into the meeting. She said you had done a correction pass, and I needed to present the new structure. She told you to say you wrote it? No. Did she tell you not to? Claire looks toward Elaine's office. She said the book needed one clear editorial lead, and you thought that was you. I'm the acquisitions editor. You acquired it after I'd been working with Silas for 18 months. Your production. The word comes out sharper than she intends. Production. The people who turn the thing imagined in one room into the thing that can survive every room after it. Claire presses her lips together. That sounded ugly. It sounded accurate. It sounded like her. Also accurate. She takes the diagram list and goes. By noon, Silas has approved 5 of the 6 revised figures. The 6th is a cutaway drawing of a Chandler Price platen press, showing hand placement during adjustment. My original query sits in an older PDF. Confirm clearance at gripper bar. Illustration may show fingers inside moving range. The query is gone from final_Claire_2. In its place is a typed note, confirmed per author call. There is no date, no initials, and no author approval attached. I send Claire a request for confirmation. She walks to Elaine's office. 10 minutes later, Elaine walks to Daniel's office. 5 minutes after that, Daniel comes upstairs and tells Kay in the hallway that the diagram is approved. I am standing close enough to hear him. By Silas? I ask. Daniel stops. Elaine says it was covered yesterday. Silas approved the sequence. He didn't approve that figure. You weren't on the call. Exactly. Elaine emerges from behind him. This does not require a public discussion. Then answer my email. Her expression remains pleasant. We are not going to produce discovery documents for every routine editorial judgment. Kay closes her briefcase but does not leave. I need something with an approver's name on it, she says. You have mine, Elaine replies. For editorial content. The art note says author confirmation. Then revise the note. Who confirmed the drawing? I ask. Elaine turns to Claire. Did Silas object? Claire looks down at her laptop. He said the old machines are dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. That is not approval, I say. He didn't tell us to pull it. He didn't see the query. Elaine's patience finally shows a crack. Nora, the figure came from his own source material. The figure was redrawn by an illustrator who has never operated the machine and reviewed by everyone responsible, not me. Then review it now. I did. The hand is in the wrong place. Kay reopens her briefcase. Elaine follows her into the conference room and the door closes. Through the glass, I see Elaine point at the production calendar. Kay shakes her head. Elaine points again. Kay takes out her phone and makes a call. At 1:15, the revised schedule arrives. Final files by 6 tonight. Plates tomorrow, press Thursday morning. Bindery slot Monday. Miss any one of them, and the next complete opening is 3 weeks away. Daniel reads over my shoulder. She found us a path, he says. She found us a narrower ledge. It's still a path. The rest of the day collapses into corrections. Louise rebuilds the photo section. Claire chases permissions. I check the index against pages that keep moving under it. Elaine brings sandwiches at 3 and leaves mine on top of a stack of jacket proofs, mayonnaise leaking through the paper. At 4:40, Claire sends a fresh manuscript titled Press_Final. The comments are stripped again. So are the version links. I restore the terminology sheet. I correct the captions. I flag the cutaway figure. At 5:22, Elaine places a sign-off sheet beside my keyboard. Kay needs this by 5:30. The line beside editorial approval already bears Claire's signature. The line beside production approval is blank. I look at the figure on my monitor. The operator's fingers rest where the gripper bar will travel when the press cycles. Replace the drawing or get Silas's written approval. There's no time. Then there's no approval. You are not responsible for the technical content. My signature says I checked the production file against outstanding queries. There are no outstanding queries. You deleted one. I resolved one. How? Her eyes flick toward the clock. Sign the sheet, Nora. Around us, keyboards have stopped. Daniel stands outside his office. Claire holds a permissions form against her chest. Louise's black pencil remains suspended over a line of type. I take my blue pencil and draw a neat hooked mark beside the blank signature line. Carry forward. Then I hand the sheet back. At 5:31, Kay releases the press slot. The office clock makes one more loud click. Elaine looks at the sign-off sheet in her hand as if the blue hook might rearrange itself into my signature. You understand what you've done, she says. I understand what I didn't approve. The museum order may be cut in half. Then tell them why. Her face empties. Claire turns away first. Daniel closes his office door hard enough to rattle the glass, and Luis lowers his pencil to the desk with exaggerated care. Elaine walks into her office. She does not slam the door. She closes it softly, which is worse. At 6:14, she sends a mandatory meeting invitation for 8 the next morning. Luis and I leave together. The air outside smells like wet brick and bus exhaust. He walks half a block before speaking. I agree about the drawing. That sounded expensive. I can agree and still enjoy receiving money every other Friday. You can say I was reckless. You were reckless. Thank you. Also right. At the corner, he holds up 2 hands a few inches apart. This is how far a gripper bar travels. Then he closes them like jaws. The fingers in that picture are lunch. A woman waiting beside us for the light takes one cautious step away. Luis watches the signal change. Maybe I shouldn't demonstrate industrial injuries on public sidewalks. Not with that much enthusiasm. He grins, but it fades quickly. Elaine's going to make the cost visible. I know. She'll make your work invisible and the cost visible. I know that too. The next morning, Elaine has arranged printed copies of the revised schedule around the conference table. The 3-week delay is highlighted in yellow. Below it, Daniel has calculated storage, freight, and the penalty for moving the museum shipment out of its preferred receiving period, $7,840. The figure sits at the bottom in bold. Elaine begins without coffee, which tells me she has been awake for hours. We are here because Mercer House missed a confirmed production window, she says. The immediate question is how we recover. The second is how we prevent individual disagreements from overruling established authority. Individual disagreements. Kay is attending by speakerphone. Her voice comes out of the black puck in the center of the table. For the record, I asked for an identified approver. I didn't require Nora specifically. Elaine's mouth tightens. Nora was assigned production approval for a file with an unresolved query. The query had been resolved editorially. Then whoever resolved it could have signed. Kay lets the sentence sit. Elaine looks at Claire. Claire studies the revised schedule. Daniel taps his calculator off, though he has not used it in several minutes. Silas has not joined. At 8:18, an email from him reaches the entire group. I did not approve figure 14. The hand is incorrectly positioned. Use the original reference photograph or remove the operator. Luis reads it twice, then looks at me. Kay says, "That answers that." Elaine leans toward the speaker. "We still lost the slot." "Yes." "Even though the figure required correction." "Yes." "Could your art department have adjusted it on plate?" "Not without approval." The answer is so ordinary that it strips the room of drama. The printer needed a decision, and we had given her a knot. Daniel runs a hand down his face. "What can you offer us now?" "A press opening in 3 weeks. I can hold it through tomorrow. Bindery will be separate, so I can't promise the same turnaround." "We'll take it," Elaine says. That is how the $7,000 figure becomes real, not as a disaster, as smaller catalog mailings, fewer freelance hours, delayed office repairs, and Daniel walking through the building turning off lights in empty rooms. Elaine distributes a second document after Kay disconnects. Mine is titled Performance Concern. It states that I exceeded my editorial authority, failed to follow reporting lines, involved external partners in an internal dispute, and withheld an approval necessary to meet a confirmed schedule. It does not mention the deleted query or the incorrect drawing. It refers to Monday's proof meeting as a disagreement concerning shared team recognition. "You may add a written response," Elaine says. "Signing only acknowledges receipt." Luis reaches for his copy, then realizes there is no copy for him. "Are we done?" he asks. "For now." Claire follows Elaine out. Daniel stays seated. I write received, not agreed beneath the signature line and date it. Then I photograph every page and put my copy in the red folder. Luis waits until Daniel leaves. What happens if the concern gets promoted? He asks. To a warning? To a firing. Then I update my resume. He makes a face. Your resume says things like managed complex workflows. I managed not to throw a chair. Put that under conflict resolution. For the next 2 days, every conversation becomes strangely temporary. Elaine decides caption changes while passing Claire near the kitchen. Claire gives the changes to Luis from memory. Luis asks me which version is current. When I email the question, Elaine replies that the production team is becoming overly bureaucratic. So Luis builds a sheet. He calls it the overly bureaucratic sheet in 18-point type. It lists each figure, caption, permission, query, approver, and file date. He shares it with Kay, Claire, Daniel, and me. Elaine asks him to change the title. He renames it Figure Approvals. The information stays. The first payoff appears in row 32. A photograph of printer Wallace Dean standing beside a restored Heidelberg has been captioned with the name of machinist Earl Webb. Their images were adjacent in an early contact sheet, then separated when Claire reordered the photo section for the sales presentation. The clean final file preserved the new order and the old captions. Claire stares at both photographs. Wallace has a beard, she says. So does Earl, Louise tells her. They have different beards. I'll add beard taxonomy to the sheet. She rubs both temples. Silas would have seen this. If he'd received the captioned proofs, I say. She looks at me. I sent them. You sent the photo sequence. The captions were in a separate file. Why are they in a separate file? Because Elaine didn't want author comments imported into the production document. Claire sinks into the chair beside Luis. Of course she didn't. We correct the names. Luis adds author caption approval as a separate column. The second problem is harder to see. The index refers readers from roller height adjustment to page 219, where a table gives machine settings for a Cottrell cylinder press. During the rewrite, the table moved to page 226. The indexer had flagged the move in a comment that disappeared when Claire accepted the track changes into her clean document. The entry now directs readers to a photograph of 3 men eating pie. It's a nice pie, Louise says. Claire does not laugh. I contact the indexer, Marin Holt, who sends back her original marked file along with a short message. I was told my queries were resolved in-house. Please confirm which file governs before I do additional work. Elaine sees Marin's message and comes upstairs. Why are freelancers being copied on internal correspondence? Because her index is part of the book, I say. She does not need a window into our process. She needs a window into the page numbers. I'm asking for discretion. You're asking us to keep decisions where nobody can verify them. I'm asking you to stop recruiting an audience. Louis swivels away from his screen. I need Marin's changes. I'm not speaking to you. I'm still the one who needs them. Elaine's eyes move between us. Claire sits rigidly at the end of the work table, one hand resting on the black travel cup. Claire, Elaine says, come downstairs. I need to fix the photo captions. Nora can do it. The irony lands on all 4 of us. Claire stands but does not move. Why did you strip the comments from the file? Because we needed a clean manuscript. We needed to know what was still open. That is what editorial judgment is for. Whose? Elaine's expression changes, becoming almost gentle. This has been a difficult week. Don't let other people's anxiety make you doubt your decisions. Claire picks up her travel cup. They weren't my decisions, she says. She follows Elaine downstairs anyway. That afternoon, the museum group reduces its order from 1,800 copies to 1,200. They will still feature the book in their winter catalog if we make the new date, but the larger entrance display goes to another title. Daniel posts the revised figure in the sales forecast. He does not name me. He does not need to. At lunch, 2 people from publicity stop talking when I enter the kitchen. A half sheet of sandwich labels lies on the counter. Someone has taken the turkey and left egg salad curling at the edges. I eat it at my desk. Competence is not armor. I know that, but knowledge does not make the room warmer when people think your principles cost them money. At 3, Daniel brings me a vendor invoice that does not require a hand delivery. I told them the delay came from an unresolved safety illustration, he says. The museum group? The staff. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. I wait. He looks older than he did a week ago, not dramatically. The skin beneath his eyes has the gray cast it gets during catalog season. Mom asked me to move the press loss cost into your department budget, he says. Production doesn't have $7,000 to lose. I said no. Thank you. She said I was protecting you. Were you? I was protecting the budget from fiction. It sounds like something I might have loved him for once. He notices the egg salad wrapper. That was a reckless choice. The turkey was gone. You could have starved with dignity. I'm trying something new. He smiles, then reaches for the red folder. I put my hand on it before he touches it. His fingers stop. I wasn't going to take it. I know. But we both look at my hand. He steps back. Kay wants a formal approval map before she puts us on press. I told her we'd have one. Luis already made it. I saw. He sent it to me with the original title. That was an internal working title. It was the first thing I've laughed at all week. At the end of the second week, Elaine reduces my author-facing duties and assigns me the spring backlist reprints. The message arrives as a staffing adjustment, though every reprint has already been cleared. Claire receives all active front list titles. Silas responds by copying me on every query he sends. Elaine asks him to respect the new communication structure. He replies, Nora is the only person who has answered the question I asked instead of a more convenient one. Claire prints that email. I see it on her desk, folded into quarters beneath her black cup. The next morning, she asks me to meet her in the loading bay. The bay smells like cardboard and rain. Pallets of returns line one wall, their cartons marked with old titles in black stencil. Claire sits on the edge of the lowered dock plate, coat buttoned to her throat. Anna Lane says you're building a case against her, she says. I'm keeping records. That's not a no. I don't know what the case is yet. She thinks you want her job. I don't. She thinks you want to punish Daniel. That would be an inefficient way to do it. Claire picks at a loose thread on her cuff. She told me the rewrite was company work. She said production editors don't get developmental credit because they're supposed to fix whatever crosses their desk. What did you think? I thought it was unfair, but useful. She meets my eyes. Yes, the honesty hurts less than her apology would have. She's been talking about succession for 2 years, Claire says. Not formally, just little tests. Let me lead this meeting. Let me handle that author. Then she tells me I'm not ready whenever I disagree with her. You're good at acquisitions. I know him. You're terrible at production. I'm learning that. A delivery truck backs toward the dock, beeping steadily. Claire stands. If she asks me to lie, I won't. She won't ask it that way. I know that, too. The new press date arrives with sleet against the windows and a final approval packet from Kay. Luis's sheet is attached. Marin's corrected index is attached. Silas's figure approvals are initialed and dated. At the bottom is a revised copyright page. Developmental editor, Claire Mercer. Additional editorial support, Nora Bell. I carry it into Elaine's office. She is packing her leather case for the press check. Is this your final credit language? I ask. It reflects our respective roles. I set the page on her desk. Then bring it tomorrow. She looks at me. You're not scheduled to attend. Kay requires the production approver present. Claire will approve production. Kay's map names me. For once, Elaine has no smooth answer ready. I return to my desk and place the copyright page inside the red folder, behind Silas's marked proofs, the version history, the deleted figure query, Marin's file, and the approval sheet bearing my blue carry mark. Claire watches me tie the cotton tape. What are you going to do? She asks. Make sure the right person signs every decision. Kay's press room is louder than an argument and twice as honest. The 6-color offset press occupies most of the floor, a blue metal corridor of rollers, guards, gauges, and warning lights. Paper dust hangs in the air. Every few seconds, another machine gives a pneumatic sigh. Through a window in the plate room, I can see stacks of unprinted sheets waiting on pallets. Luis accepts foam earplugs from a dispenser and studies them. Do these protect against management? Kay points toward a second dispenser. Those cost extra. Elaine arrives behind us with Daniel and Claire. She is wearing black, as always, beneath a pale raincoat beaded with sleet. Her leather case hangs from one hand. She sees the red folder under my arm. You brought personnel documents to a vendor facility? I brought the approval record. Keep it put away unless it's needed. Kay looks over her glasses. It'll be needed. Silas appears from the press floor wearing clear safety glasses over his reading glasses. He has somehow acquired a paper cap printed with the manufacturer's logo. Elaine stares at him. Who invited you? The machine. He asked, Kay says. I said he could observe from the marked area. Silas points at the yellow rectangle painted around his shoes. I'm extremely contained. Kay leads us to a high table beside the quality control station. On it lie folded press proofs, the approved color targets, Luis's figure sheet, and a sign-off packet. The final copyright page sits on top. Developmental editor, Claire Mercer. Additional editorial support, Nora Bell. Claire reads it, then looks at Elaine. I thought you were changing this. We discussed it. You said you would review it. I did. Kay taps the sheet. This is what's on the plate. If it's wrong, now is the time. It isn't wrong, Elaine says. I untie the red cotton tape. Silas's original proof pages come out first. I place them beside the press packet, blue marks facing up. Then the version history showing my rewrite moving into Claire's clean file. The deleted figure query, Marin's index comments, Elaine's performance notice, the approval sheet with my hooked carry mark beside the empty signature line. Elaine watches the pile grow. What exactly are you doing? She asks, finishing the record. This is a press check, Nora. It is not a grievance hearing. No, it's the first place every decision has to land on paper. Daniel closes his eyes briefly. Kay gives him the expression of a woman who has seen clients conduct divorces, mergers, and nervous breakdowns beside industrial equipment. I need final sign-off in 30 minutes, she says. You can use the break room. Elaine picks up the packet. We do not need the break room. Silas removes his paper cap and reaches for the copyright page. You've credited the wrong editor. The credit reflects staff roles, Elaine says. The staff roles produced a wrong picture and 3 weeks of delay. The drawing has been corrected. By Nora. By the team. He looks down at my marked pages. That word is doing a lot of unpaid work. Elaine turns to Kay. Can we proceed with Daniel's signature? If Daniel is accepting production responsibility, yes. Daniel looks at the packet. He understands what she is offering him. The press can run, the credit can stay. He can make the entire conflict disappear under his name. He picks up Kay's pen. Then he sets it back down. I didn't check the file, he says. Elaine speaks quietly. Your operations director. That means I know not to sign an approval I didn't perform. The press starts cycling behind us. At first the sound is slow, each impression distinct. Then it gathers speed until the separate impacts become one continuous roar. Elaine looks at Daniel as if the noise has come from him. Claire touches the copyright page with one finger. I don't want this credit. You earned a developmental role. I built the sales presentation. You also handled the final structure. No, you handed me Nora's rewrite and told me to present it as the editorial solution. Elaine's jaw tightens. I told you to lead the meeting. You told me one successful flagship book would show everyone I was ready to take on the list. That is not the same thing. You put her file in my folder. You removed her name from the document. Then you said, don't muddy the room with process. The lead editor presents the rescue. Luis takes out a black composition pencil and writes the sentence in the margin of his figure sheet. Elaine sees him. Put that down. He does, though the words remain. Claire keeps going. I knew the rewrite wasn't mine. I thought you were giving me the lead credit because I was acquisitions and she was production. Claire. And I let you. Silas's safety glasses have slipped halfway down his nose. He pushes them back. That answers Monday's question, he says. Elaine turns toward the press floor. Fresh sheets begin sliding into the delivery unit, each one caught and squared against the next. For a moment, I see the attraction of her way of doing things, everything moving. No hesitation visible from the outside, the finished stack rising while the machinery swallows every correction that came before it. She faces me again. What do you want? A correct credit. You have a credit. I did the developmental edit on the final chapter. I want the language Silas requested. And after I give you that, you'll sign? I'll sign that the production file matches the documented approvals. Those are the same thing. No. I take a single folded sheet from the back of the folder. I'm also resigning from staff. Daniel's head comes up. Claire says my name under her breath. Elaine does not move. Effective when? When this book is delivered to Bindery, you expect to abandon the list in the middle of a season and still bargain over the credit? I expect to finish what I agreed to finish. What will you do after that? I'm offering Mercer House a 6-month production contract. Defined projects, defined fees, written approval chain. Daniel signs operational changes. Authors sign content changes. Claire signs acquisitions and marketing. You sign editorial scope. And you? I sign production when the file is accurate. Elaine lets out a short breath that is almost a laugh. You created a crisis to turn yourself into a contractor. I lost my staff protection the moment you wrote a performance notice that omitted the dangerous figure. You are not being fired. I don't need to wait. The roar of the press drops away. Somewhere down the line, a warning tone sounds. Kay glances toward the operator, who lifts one hand to show the stop is expected. In the sudden quiet, Daniel says, "What are the fees?" I hand him a second sheet. Elaine looks from him to me. You knew about this? No. He reads quickly. They're in range. They're higher than her salary allocation. They include her overhead. You cannot seriously be entertaining this beside a press. I've been entertaining it since you asked me to move a production loss into her budget. Daniel turns the proposal over, as if there might be another version on the back. I know what he sees. The end of health insurance through Mercer House, the end of paid vacation, the end of a predictable deposit every other Friday. He also sees the clauses requiring dated approvals and named decision-makers. Daniel likes a clean chain even more than I do. He just spent years pretending otherwise when the chain led to his mother. Why didn't you tell me? He asks. Because I needed to know whether I would do it, even if you said no. That lands between us with more weight than the contract. He nods once. Luis clears his throat. For what it's worth, I'm not taking another front list book without the approval sheet. Elaine looks at him. Are you resigning too? No. I enjoy dental coverage. I'm setting a work condition. Marin said the same about indexing, I tell her. She wants one governing file and written resolution of queries. Kay returns from the press console. And future Mercer House jobs will need the approval map attached at pre-flight. I can't hold time while your staff decides who has authority. One person could be called difficult. 4 people and a printer were a workflow. Silas lays his hand on the red folder. My next manuscript goes to Nora for developmental review. Elaine's eyes sharpen. Your next book is under option to Mercer House. Yes, which is why I'm telling Mercer House who I want editing it. We haven't exercised the option. Then don't. He says it without drama. Silas's next book will not save the company by itself. It will not ruin them if it goes elsewhere. It is simply a good book Elaine wants and a line he is finally willing to draw. Claire folds her arms. My credit should say acquisitions editor. That diminishes your work, Elaine says. It describes my work. Elaine looks at the press packet again. Her goal has always been motion. The next catalog, the next order, the next convincing promise that a small company with tight cash and old wiring can keep publishing beautiful books. She is not choosing between truth and destruction. She is choosing between control and a process that can continue without her touching every wire. Developmental editing fee, she says to Daniel. He finds the line. That number is excessive. It's based on the Editorial Freelancers Association range, I say. You were already paid for the weekend. I was salaried for production work. You told me developmental editing was outside my defined role. Her own sentence returns so cleanly that even Luis does not joke. Elaine takes Daniel's pen and crosses out the fee. She writes a lower number, then slides the sheet to me. I raise it by 15%. She crosses out my number and writes one between them. I accept. 6 months is too long, she says. It gives you stability through the spring list. 3 months with renewal. 6, terminable with 30 days notice by either side. Daniel says, that's reasonable. Elaine gives him a look he receives without flinching. And Nora does not report to editorial? She asks. I report to the approval map. That is a slogan. It's a sentence you can put in the contract. Claire leans over Daniel's shoulder. Add that credit language must be confirmed before final files. He writes it in the margin. The operator brings Kay a fresh sheet. She checks registration marks with a magnifier, then hands the proof to Silas. Page 219 holds the photograph of the 3 men eating pie. The index no longer sends anyone there for roller height. He turns to page 226 and finds the table where it belongs. Good, he says. Elaine opens her leather case and takes out a fountain pen. Change the copyright page, she tells Kay. Developmental editing of the final chapter by Nora Bell. Acquisitions editor Claire Mercer. Kay checks the wall clock. New black plate adds 45 minutes and $180. Do it. And the metadata? I ask. Elaine's pen pauses. Daniel takes the packet from her. I'll correct the distributor feed and retailer records. Today, Silas says. Daniel looks at him. Today. Elaine signs the handwritten contract terms. Daniel signs beneath her for operations. I sign last. The paper feels oddly light. Kay remakes the plate while we eat vending machine crackers in the break room. Claire sits across from me, peeling the paper from a cheese stick. I'm sorry, she says. It is not enough. It is also true. You don't get to use my work again. I know. You don't get to hide behind her when you know better. I know. Stop saying you know. Claire takes a bite of cheese and chews unhappily. You're incredibly mean after winning. This isn't winning. This is lunch. She laughs, then covers her mouth. At the other end of the room, Elaine and Silas argue about whether his next manuscript needs 12 chapters or 9. Neither raises a voice. Neither gives ground. Daniel sits beside me. You're really leaving? Yes. I thought the contract was leverage. It's a boundary. He turns his paper cup in both hands. I should have said something Monday. You should have said something years ago. I know. I glance at Claire. Daniel corrects himself. Fair. He looks tired, sad, and more solid than I remember him. It does not make me want our marriage back. It makes me wish he had become this person while we were still inside it. I'm sorry I kept asking you to absorb things because you were better at surviving them, he says. The apology reaches a place I had stopped checking. I touch his wrist once. Then Kay calls us back to the floor. The corrected sheet comes through clean. My name sits beneath Silas's in small black type, neither grand nor hidden. Claire's credit appears on the next line. Silas checks the machine table. Luis checks the photo captions. Kay checks color and registration. I compare the sheet against the approval packet. Then I sign. The press begins again. Mercer House pays my developmental fee 30 days later, and my first contract invoice 12 days after that. The timing tells me exactly which system Elaine controls and which one Daniel does. Working independently is less cinematic than people imagine. I spend mornings editing at my dining table and afternoons chasing permissions, pricing insurance, and explaining to clients why final cannot appear in 7 file names. Luis joins me on 2 outside projects, then proposes we share software and billing costs. We call the arrangement Bell Ortega Production because every clever name sounds like a coffee shop. Mercer House remains our largest client, but not our only one. Elaine communicates through the approval map. Her emails become shorter and, as a result, kinder. Claire returns to publicity and acquisitions. Her campaign for the last working press earns the museum order back in smaller installments, helped by a video of Silas demonstrating the corrected machine setting with both hands visibly clear of the gripper bar. The first finished copy arrives in a padded envelope. Silas has wrapped it in the old red cotton tape. Inside the front cover, he has tucked one of my blue wax pencils, sharpened with a blade instead of Luis's little brass tool. I turn past the title page to the editorial credits. My name is where the record says it belongs. Beside it, Silas has drawn a single blue hook, carrying the line forward.